Welcome to Espiritu Coffee Chats, the podcast where we blend wellness, spirituality, and business to help you live with intention and balance.
We're your hosts, Valerie and Arlene, two Latina entrepreneurs here to guide and grow with you.
Welcome back to Espiritu Coffee Chats, and we are really excited to have Laura Valdez. She's one of our biz besties, and we are just really excited to share with you that she is a very heart-centered person, but also she has this beautiful service, this beautiful business where she is here to help bring inclusivity, diversity, and cultures together. So Laura, what do you do?
So thank you for having me on the chat, Arlene. I appreciate it. So I have a translation and interpretation services agency, and we help organizations and companies bridge language gaps through our high quality in-person and remote interpretation services in over 20 languages, as well as written translation and for documents, digital and print materials.
Beautiful. And so I've heard your story about why you started your business and the impact that you want to do, but I want everybody to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents are immigrants. My family is Colombian. Growing up in Jackson Heights, Queens, and Brooklyn, New York City, with a Colombian mom and a Pakistani stepdad really opened me to the world of languages. So growing up, my stepdad spoke Punjabi, Urdu, and although I'm not fluent in either language, I did pick up on some words through Bollywood films and just hearing his family. And I was always the language bridge in my family because my Colombian grandparents didn't speak English. My Pakistani stepdad didn't speak Spanish, so I was always that bridge between them. I would also edit and translate my mom's emails and just help her with some translation work as well. So growing up in New York City, hearing all of these languages really made me want to learn more, and I studied Latin, Portuguese, and German in high school and college because those languages were offered. And the last year of college, I studied a little bit of Swahili, and I graduated early, so I couldn't continue studying that there. But I've just really loved languages and bridging languages and culture, so it just was normal for me after college to get into this career. I've interpreted nationally, internationally at conferences, and this is just a passion that I have.
So what is it that you mainly do like now? Like you basically interpret for like organizations, companies, like what does that entail?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with different sectors here in Southern California. We work with education sector. We've worked with some nonprofits, corporates. We worked with unions, with PR firms, lawyers, you name it, especially conferences. Conferences is our specialty because in Southern California, in San Diego, there's a hub for international conferences. So that's something we help. We also do B2C, so we'll help folks translate their immigration documents, and then if they have immigration appointments as well. So we just have a very wide range of different clients that we help to bridge language gaps.
I love it. I love how you understood at a young age. I can only imagine you as a little girl just sitting at the coffee table or the kitchen table with some cafecito there, and just like imagining you working alongside your mom or working alongside your stepdad and really helping them kind of live in this American world that they just kind of landed in. And so the responsibility that you might have had as being a little young lady, like having to write emails probably for your parents or having to look at mortgage documents or bank statements and explain it to them. But then also the scarier part is being that, I mean, my kids are scared to even order at a restaurant, like imagining you having to speak to these grownups basically about these, very heavy things for your family. Not heavy, but like serious things. And how that made such a big impact like on your heart and how you were really able to see, I guess, the need for that, but also how it is such a deep thing for people who come to this country or even any other country and not being able to speak and like have somebody advocate, right? And obviously like you being their daughter, they trusted in you, but now you're wanting to almost be that quote unquote daughter for other people and help interpret for them and really get, their story across or their whatever goal that they want when it comes to the interpretation services, or especially even companies. Like you're representing a company too, like that is probably stressful, I would imagine.
It's not stressful because I studied the language, to be an interpreter translator. However, speaking to your point, yes, so when my mom met my stepdad, they already spoke English, but before my mom met him, she didn't speak English, and she had a major loss at a court case because she didn't have an interpreter. And then also just So it took my dad a very long time, my stepdad a very long time to become, to receive residency. And he spoke English, with an accent, so did my mom. But I'm thinking, if they spoke English and it took them such a long time for him to get that,
Right.
papers. Imagine folks who don't speak English, who are going to an appointment and they don't have an interpreter. So it's these experiences that I saw that really made me passionate about this. And also I was like interpreting and translating for my grandparents, and with my dad. So it just put that seed in me of wanting to bridge language gaps.
Yeah, yeah. I do want to touch a little bit on a couple more questions, but I feel like you're also very passionate about diversity and inclusion. And how does your business represent that? I feel like you give a lot to the community. I know that your business is tied to like nonprofit support. So share with us about that, because I think it's really important to also like highlight business, because that is businesses that support, diversity inclusion, but also support nonprofit work, because not all businesses do that. Not to say that you have to, but when you do, that's like another like heart-centered thing. Like your business is here to make an impact, but then it wants to do a little more. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for this question. So last year, Valdez Language Services was selected as a 2025 Better Business Bureau Torch Awards for Ethics finalist. And also one of the things that we did last year is we raised over $2,000 for 4 different nonprofits. We provided a scholarship for the Transfronterizo Institute, which helps first-gen students to go to college with college preparedness. And then we also donated part of our proceeds of our sales to 3 nonprofits working towards human rights. So that was Al Otro Lado, that was ACLU's Southern California, and that was Trans Family Support Services. Part of what we do with the language services that we provide is also giving back. And so we're very grateful to folks who work with us, because they're not only working with us, but they're supporting human rights as well.
Love that.
Thank
Makes
you.
my heart so happy.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to go to a deeper question, and this is going to be more so geared towards AI. So how do you feel about AI? Do you have a feeling about it? Are you worried about it? Are you not worried about it? Because I feel like, there's like Apple AirPods, right? That can translate. That there's AI, but I want to know, how do you feel about the future of AI when it comes to your business professional?
So honestly, it is a fear of how, advanced it's become. And, I saw a post on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago that showed that translators and interpreters were going to be among the first affected groups of those because of AI. I always like to highlight that while AI is present, it can't capture the nuance, the culture, the context of the messages intended for audiences, because it doesn't have empathy. AI isn't human. So for example, there are 10 different ways of saying straw in Spanish. So just having that nuance is important. And also for important and delicate documents like legal field, medical field, scientific field, it is a risk of bringing that towards the whole world by using AI. And also we bring in the ethical component as well,
Right.
So there are so many things that point to having human linguists and that value of the human eye, the human touch. So while I do know that it is present, I like to, not just because it's my profession, but I do like to encourage folks to continue working with human linguists.
Yeah. I did have an experience that I shared with Laura like a month ago, where Mexico called me because I'm working on my dual citizenship and I didn't turn in a paper. Something happened with the paper. So they called me, and then I needed to be able to talk with them. And so I missed the call. Anyways, long story short, I called back Mexico, and I don't speak Spanish. So then I had the iPhone translator come on, and it was just a mess. It was like, we still got through the call, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this is 1, so embarrassing. And then 2, it just made it really complicated. It wasn't as easy as people think. And I was like, I should have just called Laura and told her to get on the phone with me. And this would have been like a 5-minute conversation that turned into like a 30-minute conversation. And, and it just brought out my insecurities about not being able to speak Spanish. And speaking on that, I want you to share about this like fun idea that you have when it comes to people who are like me. So I'm second generation, born here in the United States. And also I'm sure there's first gen to third gen to fourth gen, whatever your gen is, born here. And for example, my parents and my grandparents were really focused on us speaking English, right? And Spanish was on the back burner. So super Americanized. And so now that I've grown up, I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of wish that they would have taught us, right? But I understand their perspective, I mean, it was so important that on my dad's side, my grandma and my grandpa, they met and in a English as a second language classic, they wanted to learn.
So cute.
They wanted to learn English, right? It's so cute. So I can see how that language barrier, I mean, they met because of both of them had that shared experience of feeling like they needed to learn English, right? If they never had that like need to want to do that, then I wouldn't be here. That's just how big language is, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to talk about, because I'm excited for it, about your birthing experience that you're going to be doing. When I say birthing, it's because it's an idea. And tell us about it.
Thank you so much for the support, Arlene. So I always tell folks that the best way to learn languages is through music. So I studied Portuguese, German, even some Hindi, learned through Bollywood songs, and I would listen to the music and look at the lyrics, and that just helped with memory retention. I had 13 years of experience teaching Spanish, and I do it in a very immersive setting where I'll show you the verb. We've worked together. And so I'm going to be birthing Learn Spanish with Bad Bunny series where we will cover songs. It's rated R, so yeah, children probably shouldn't take this course.
I mean, I let my kids listen to everything. So
that's true. But
I know all the bad words in Spanish just because my parents said them when I was little.
Yeah, that's insane. So through this course, you'll be able to learn Spanish through Bad Bunny songs. And then if we go through all those, we can go to another artist like Shakira or someone else.
Right.
But I really like to encourage folks to learn music to learn language through music. And this is just a fun way to do it in a group setting. So yeah, I'm excited for it too.
Yeah, I'm excited because I've shared with Laura before that I've learned all these songs in Spanish growing up. I mean, I used to love Selena. I was even in a quinceañera where we had to learn the choreography for like 3 of her songs.
I love her.
And I don't even know what half the songs are saying, but I know them word for word. I even know how to dance to it. So it's just funny how somebody like me who doesn't speak Spanish, but I've been immersed in that realm for so long. And you're talking about like 40 years later, I still don't know how to speak it fluently, but there's obviously a need. And so I'm excited to try to learn it this way because I feel like the way I've wanted to learn Spanish isn't more so the like traditional way of learning it is, you do like a course or you work with somebody, right? Like I feel like I need something that's a little more fun and like gets me excited. And then also it will stick with me. And I love music. I love dancing. I mean, what fucking Latina doesn't? So I feel like this is going to be good for me, but also if it's good for me, I'm sure it's going to be fun for other people too. And this is just like a gateway, right? It's not like you're going to walk away super fluent, but it's also like just to see how you can, I guess, remember songs because you're going to remember what the words mean. You're going to relate to those words.
Absolutely.
And then the beat is just fun. And then, I mean, Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
But I want to also leave off with this before we hand it off to Val because she's going to continue to connect with Laura. One of the things that I feel like how I can relate to this, I mean, obviously, like my call with Mexico, I can understand that one. But I was also feeling like it was reminding me when it feels helpless and how your parents might have felt. So when I was getting a divorce from my first husband and we were having to appear in front of a judge and we were talking about child support. And obviously there's money, so that's going to, bring some emotions and stuff. So and you hire an attorney to represent you. And that attorney, I felt like, wasn't saying the things I wanted her to say. She wasn't representing with passion that I wanted her to say or, show up with. And she wasn't speaking the things. She wasn't sharing my story. And I honestly left that hearing feeling like, one, I didn't win I didn't get what I wanted. It wasn't even for me, it was for my son. And again, not, how can I say, like, without meaning it like it was horrible. Like, it just felt like at that time that I wanted more advocacy for myself. And I felt so helpless because I literally wanted to push her aside and just start talking for myself. And be like, da, 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 da. So I can only imagine how that feels for somebody who is showing up to court, right? And they have to have an interpreter by their side to represent them. And you want that interpreter to express your emotion, to tell your story, to get into the details, right? Or even if it's somebody, in the health, they're visiting their doctor and they need somebody to support them with communication, right? With speaking to the doctor. So there's like so many things in life where interpretation is needed. And going back to the human part of it, tone and emotion, I think, is really important. A robot could be very monotone. You can pick your voice, I guess, but it's not going to be the same as somebody who can also add filler words that maybe the person who is trying to say can't say, but you can pick up on it and you can add a little word here and there that a robot wouldn't be able to do. And then also going back to Laura, I feel like she is very emotionally in tune to others. So I feel like you can pick up on people's feelings. And I think as an interpreter, you kind of have to be ahead of what they're feeling so that you can prepare yourself to say it and express it for them so that it lands emotionally, but it also lands with some maybe advocacy, or it lands with some authority behind it, right? Like there's different, I'm sure you interpret different types of things where you need a different kind of part of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And yes, absolutely. As interpreters, we are interpreting in the first person. So if you say, for example, I went to the office yesterday, we're going to say, fui a la oficina ayer. So we are doing it in first person. And also the linguists that we work with are amazing. So if you need a court certified interpreter, we've got you covered, a certified healthcare interpreter as well in different languages. So we take care to ensure that we're getting the right linguist for you. So it's not the same being, just bilingual in a language. It's not the same just having, an interpreter for a specific language. We want to make sure that that the project that you need is going to be matched with the linguist who has those skills sets to help that project be a success.
Oh, I love it. Before I hand you off to Val, I just want to echo back to the Bad Bunny because I want you all to join me for this. And it will be in the show notes when it is live and ready for you guys to sign up. I definitely encourage it. I will definitely be there. And also her Instagram handle will be below. And otherwise, I enjoyed this half interviewing you and connecting with you and just having you share about your business. But again, it's also because I love sharing, especially having people on this podcast. I think Val and I both want to have women that are also making an impact, that are supporting like nonprofits, but are also aware of diversity and inclusion, because that's such a big part of who we are and what this podcast is about. So cheers to you, girl.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand you off to Val.
I've enjoyed hearing everything you've shared so far with Arlene. And so what I want to do is I want to tap back into Valdez Language Services. And so not everyone is familiar with what language translation services look like, or when organizations should start considering these things and why. So can you walk us through kind of like what that process looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So translation services are written services from one language to another, from the main language, original language from the source language to the target language. And it could be digital or print, so translating a website or translating documents. And organizations should consider translation services when they're looking to inform and connect with and have relationships with multilingual audiences. So say, for example, if it's something related to climate change is something that affects us all. So material should be available in not just Spanish, but the different languages around. So for example, in San Diego, some of the most requested languages or spoken languages are Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean. So we help to bridge language gaps with that. So organizations should keep in mind translation services if they're looking to inform and connect with informed relationships with the multilingual communities here.
Awesome. And so is this something for like conferences or workshops? Like what is the process? What does the actual event look like when you have a translator there?
Absolutely. So a very important distinction I want to make is the difference between translation and interpretation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this happens all the time. So translation is for written word, and then interpretation is for oral, so that's spoken or signed. So, for example, at a conference, at a meeting, at an event, you would have interpreters present. Let's say, for example, your event lasts for 8 hours. You would have 2 interpreters there because 2 interpreters would take turns sharing, interpreting the materials. And say you have, for example, 10 Spanish-speaking participants who aren't fluent in English and 10 Chinese Mandarin-speaking participants who aren't fluent in English. So you would have 2 interpreters for Spanish and 2 interpreters for Chinese Mandarin, that they would be in the background with the interpreter microphone and the interpreter transmitter, interpreting possibly in a booth if that's requested, a full booth. And the participants would receive a receiver and a headset, so the headphones, and they would be listening to the live simultaneous interpretation. Now for like American Sign Language interpreting, you would have the interpreter on stage interpreting what is happening at the event. So those are some of the scenarios where you would use translation to translate the materials to let the folks know that this meeting is going on, and then having the interpreters on site to facilitate language access.
Amazing. And so I'm just thinking because I've actually I've seen the sign language like at concerts and stuff, but I think the only interpretation services I've seen happen to all be in movies and films, maybe like the UN or some kind of like similar type of situation. So for organizations that are looking to hire either the translations or the interpretation services, and for the people that are attending, what is kind of the biggest shift you see in the organizers and also in the attendees? So when there is a translator or interpreter there provided for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is definitely a sense of connectedness. So one thing I also have experience in is creating multilingual spaces. So say, for example, there are some folks that are not fluent in Spanish and not fluent in English. We can create multilingual spaces where if the meeting is going to be held in English and in Spanish, like a Spanish speaking presenter, then folks who are not fluent in either language can come to us and use one of the headsets and the receivers to listen into the interpretation. That way participants feel comfortable expressing themselves in the language that they feel most comfortable speaking in. So there's definitely this sense of gratitude from participants and organizers that all this information, resources, opportunities are being shared and folks can know what's going on.
I love that, yeah. Because I can only imagine I think especially here in San Diego, there are so many informational workshops and all kinds of resources. And obviously the ones that I've seen are all in English because that's my primary language and what I use day to day. But for a lot of others, I tend to see Spanish. That seems to be the second most maybe dominant language in San Diego.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I don't really know.
It is.
But I think like how Arlene had mentioned earlier, where having the services there to help bridge that gap between the language, I think just makes us, like you said, more connected. And also, like Arlene said, gives us more of the confidence to be in that space and to feel like we are being represented. Because I think a lot of times organizations will say that they are diverse, but then fall short. So are there any questions or maybe reflection points that organizations can take to ensure that they're not just performing diversity, but actually creating the real diversity and the trust in the community?
I love this question. And yes, absolutely yes. So one thing that organizations can do is they can talk to language services providers like myself with Valdez Language Services and have a meeting before they're planning their budget so they know how much to set aside for translation services and interpretation services, because there are things that go into interpretation services like having 2 interpreters if it's going to be like a meeting that lasts more than 1 hour, or having the equipment, right, the receivers, transmitters, headsets, mics, all that stuff. So it's always important to keep in mind this when you're planning for the year's budget, and then also taking the time to meet beforehand with language services providers to learn the difference, like what is translation, what is interpretation, what materials need to be translated. And it's just important to have these conversations before you get to the conference, and then treating language services as an afterthought, especially if you're looking to help and connect with organizations that are helping communities access resources, opportunities, and services available to them.
And are there specific industries that could best benefit from translating or interpretation services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say any nonprofit doing work to support different services throughout the region that they're covering, especially education, healthcare, legal, marketing for different organizations providing services, utilities. There's just such a wide range of uses for translation and interpretation services.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that it spans all industries in some way. I'm sure there's many of situations I can't think of, but basically it seems like for any industry that this is applicable if you're looking to bridge that gap. And from a business point of view, it also increases your addressable market, your market share, because now you're tapping into multiple audiences and not just, I mean, we're here in California, so English speaking is the default. So you're not just tapping into the English speaking communities here, you're tapping into the Spanish, the Arabic, all these other languages, Vietnamese, like you had said. And so there's like actual real business and revenue benefits selfishly in doing and having these services for people.
Absolutely, yes. You're connecting with more markets, with more communities, and it's a win-win. It really is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, do it. Hire Laura. Hire Valdez Language Services. Like, I think we've put all of the reasons why the interpretation and translation services benefit like so many people. I think many of us first gen, second generations have had in some shape or form that experience where we're translating for our family is what got you started in all of this, and being surrounded by the beautiful global mesh pot of languages and culture that is the United States, really. So I think like when you take a step back and you look at the benefits of the services that you provide, I think it touches like all points of humanity and really brings us like closer together. And I know often we talk about like, oh, bridging the gap between here and here, but we don't actually see like, not in some cases, we don't actually see the benefits. Whereas with like your translation and interpretation services, there's often real-time benefits. Like you can see the stress dropping from people's shoulders in these events where they're actually able to understand and, you know, be part of this beautiful community that we have, like not just here in San Diego, but more broadly nationally. And like you came from New York, was this like mesh pot of cultures. We're here in San Diego, and I would argue we're still a mesh pot of cultures.
Yeah. More than 100 languages are spoken in San Diego.
No way. I had no idea. That's crazy. And so, yeah, I think like it should be, from my perspective, like part of our woven fabric into how we operate as individuals, as businesses, as nonprofits, because it just brings us all closer together. And I think especially like in today's social climate, it is very necessary. So I think there's many reasons why like interpretation and translation services from Valdez Language Services would be really, really beneficial to all of our community.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate the support. And yeah, with 16 years of experience translating, interpreting, and coordinating language requests, you are in good hands.
Yeah, and you have all kinds, wow, I'm blanking. You have people that you hire to do these services too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll find, with the 16 years of experience I have coordinating language requests both on the West Coast and in the East Coast of the U.S. and interpreting nationally and internationally. I've developed an art for finding the best linguist for your project. So yes, we take very meticulous care to ensure that the correct linguist is paired with your translation or interpretation project.
Amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared today, for having this conversation with us. I think it's been phenomenal. I, for myself, have learned a lot about like interpretation and the fact that I was even like mixing the two up.
It's common.
Like I had no idea. And so thank you for offering this space for us all to learn, and to the organizations in San Diego and beyond, nationally, internationally. Valdez Language Services will fill that gap that you need to be filling for your community and your people, so that you can bring us all closer together. Is there anything you would like to end on?
No, thank you so much, Valerie and Arlene, for having me on today. I'm very grateful. And if you have any questions on translation or interpretation, or just want to have a quick chat, feel free to send me a message.
Where can they reach you?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Laura Valdez. That's Valdes. You can find me on the Instagram page, Valdez Language Services.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, Val.
All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Espiritu Coffee Chats.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation and found a little inspiration to take with you.
If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform.
And stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more.
Until next time, keep the spirit alive and the coffee brewing. Cheers! Ow, ow, ow.